All right, welcome in 8:05 on this Thursday evening, and thank you for joining us here on this latest edition of Wave Extra with myself, Jose Sosaya, in the Wave Now studio. As always, appreciate you checking in, whether it's through our Wave Now app or through our different social media platforms. Always love to connect with you all and check in on the stories that we're discussing throughout the day, the weeks, and everything that's on your mind here in the community. On a day like today, perhaps you were able to, take the day off from work to reflect on the Juneteenth holiday, as we've seen, several parts of the community do so as well, taking time to think about the significance of the historical event itself and its recent acknowledgement and the education that comes around with it. But in some of the coverage, looking at events not just for us in Wave Country, but looking throughout the country, more recent Juneteenth celebrations, perhaps taking on an added political tone. Wanted to share with you, of course, one comment that was coming up as we look ahead at some video provided to us by the Wave crew. And you can see here, this is part of an unveiling that happened earlier today. It was Governor Beshear making remarks in Lexington, speaking at the unveiling of a sculpture called Towards Freedom. It's honoring Lewis and Harriet Hayden, two enslaved Kentuckians who became prominent abolitionists. Beshear at this particular event also criticized, though, the Trump administration and reaffirmed his own support for diversity.
So at a time when we see these attacks from the federal government, let me make clear that you know where I stand. I believe that diversity is a strength and never a weakness, and that it should be celebrated today and every single day here in Kentucky.
And Beshear also at this event reminding the crowd of his own record about voting rights and removing the Jefferson Davis statue from the state capitol. Now, again, for historical context of June 19th in 1865, that was the day that the Union Army freed the last remaining enslaved people in Texas. And fast forward to today, Juneteenth being recognized as that national holiday to remember that moment. And as far as Beshear is concerned, as with executive power, he had ordered Juneteenth the holiday for state executive branch employees through that executive order. And as an update, some point through the day confirming that that would remain the case as long as he is in office. So aside from what's going on in Lexington, we also saw some celebrations at the Muhammad Ali Center here in downtown Louisville, offering free admission to folks for coming in to check in the museum. And with many people off today, the staff at the Ali Center opened their doors up, exploring exhibits, special offerings. The day actually started with a special speaker and a discussion. Was Dr. Reverend Kevin Cosby. And here is part of the staff discussing the significance of hosting events like this for this particular holiday.
We really want to break down barriers to access for our community. And there's really no better day to celebrate Muhammad Ali than on Juneteenth. Someone who is such an advocate for racial justice and for equality. I couldn't think of a better place to be today.
Now, the guests were able to come check out the different exhibits, also got to enjoy live performances from performers from Simmons College. There was a spoken word competition. And as a reminder, Juneteenth celebrations continue tonight into the weekend. It includes the Melanair Marketplace celebration that is tonight at 4th Street Live. You can check out some of the other events happening around town by visiting our website on wave3.com. Now, moving to an update we received this afternoon to some news that had happened, unfortunately, yesterday. It's a tragic update, learning about an Okolona firefighter who drowned in a boating accident in Tennessee. Perhaps you've come across this unfortunate news on your particular social media feeds, and the pictures being shared of Captain Barry. Let's see if we can set that picture up for you. So yes, this is what Okolona Fire was able to share with us, this picture of 35-year-old firefighter Chris Barry, who again, unfortunately died yesterday while he was at the Dale Hollow Reservoir. He was down in Tennessee. Barry's body was recovered at around 8:30 Wednesday morning. Wildlife officials in Tennessee telling us he was out camping with friends. He took a boat out for a night fishing trip when he reportedly fell overboard. And despite the efforts to rescue him, they could not reach Barry in time. Of course, we will keep you updated as we begin to learn a little more about his arrangements and how people will be able to mourn and reflect on his life. So now to a story that's, developed in chapters, and we're about to see the next high profile, high interest stakes play out in a court down in Bowling Green in Warren County. As a reminder of the names we've all been familiar with, because they're names that have come up in conversation for this particular story over 10 years, the names Brooks Hauk and Joseph Lawson. As a reminder, they've now been transferred into the Warren County Jail. We are all 5 days out from seeing the start of the joint trial in the disappearance and death of Crystal Rogers, who you remember was Brooks Hauk's then girlfriend in this particular matter. Now, as a reminder of the charges that each faces, as for Hauk, the particular charge is conspiracy to murder and tampering with evidence. As for, that was for Joseph Lawson, conspiracy to murder and tampering with evidence. For Brooks Hauk, it's charged with tampering and complicity. So that's an upgraded degree on that particular murder charge. So what could we expect as we draw now closer to jury selection? Well, Wave News reporter Alina Noakes is going to be in the courtroom breaking all the testimony down for us once again with a team of producers and a sketch artist getting you those images. And she decided to take a closer look at some of the big legal questions heading into the trial.
The chances Steve Lawson plays any role in the prosecution of his son and their employer is low, but not zero. Wave legal analyst Leland Holbert says it all depends on what the prosecution thinks he has to offer, if anything at all.
He testified, and based on the outcome, I don't think the jury believed what he was saying. So if he's not a very believable witness, you don't have a lot to gain by giving him a better deal than what the jury gave him.
That was 17 years, yet Steve is already planning an appeal and asked a judge to toss his conviction.
You jeopardize your appeal if you say something on the stand that can be used against you in your appeal process, if you contradict yourself. So, I mean, do you feel like it outweighs, like he doesn't have as much to benefit him if he was to take the stand and the prosecution the same thing?
Where does he think his irons are tied best, with an appeal or with helping? And who knows if the prosecutors even offered him? I doubt it. I think that ship sailed years ago.
Without Steve on the stand, it's unlikely anything he has said, even in jail calls, will come up in the trial of his employer, Brooks Hauk, and his son, Joseph. Unlike Steve, case details for these two men remain largely sealed, years of search and seizures far from the public eye. But this new jury may see some of the same arguments used in the first trial, especially considering they'll be asked to convict a suspect of a murder prosecutors say he actively participated in. We're talking about the main suspect, Brooks Hauk, Crystal Rogers' then boyfriend. Unlike the Lawson father-son duo, Hauk's charges go a step beyond conspiracy, with complicity.
Do you feel like the burden of proof on the murder itself is going to be a lot weightier in this next trial than it was in Steve Lawson's?
At the end of the day, if the jury thinks Crystal Rogers was murdered and these people were involved, then I don't think it's a massive leap, this conspiracy complicity thing. But that will be up to the lawyers, the defense attorneys, to poke holes in, and for the prosecution to sew up.
But here we are, Hauk accused of participating in a murder with no body, even 10 years later. Holbert believes Hauk's defense must move beyond that.
So as a defense attorney or a prosecutor, you got to look at what you have to admit and deny what they can't prove. So you hammer the stuff they can't, there's no body. But you can only beat the no body drum so much because the jury gets that. Okay, there's no body, but something happened to this woman. So if that's your only defense, you're in trouble.
And our thanks to Alina Noakes for that preview breakdown. Of course, you can always come and check out on wave3.com the latest updates, because we're going to kind of have a running blog post for all the different developments in the trial as it gets officially started. And you could always go back to visit our archives and the reporting that Alina and the team were able to break down from Steve Lawson's trial, which, again, not that long ago in Warren County. So make sure you check in for those updates. You can always sign up for those push alerts on the free Wave News app on your iPhone or Android device. Okay, we're going to take a quick commercial break and be right back with more of today's updates and headlines on this segment of Wave Extra. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Wave Extra at 8:17 on this Juneteenth Thursday. And we do want to share this update with you because, as we mentioned, the latest updates, breaking headlines and stories, those get updated very quickly on the wave3.com website. And so we wanted to read you this just came into our newsroom. An update for us in Louisville, breaking that a young teen boy was taken to a Louisville hospital to be treated for a gunshot wound, and Louisville Metro Police are investigating. The latest details, as we can scroll down here to take a look, are that at least based on what police were able to tell us, that around 6:15, so roughly 2 hours ago, they learned about the teen boy being taken to St. Mary and Elizabeth Hospital by private means. So likely someone was able to drive them in their own car to go treat a gunshot wound. But the victim, he's expected to be okay. Louisville police, they're not able to quite pinpoint a crime scene just yet, and they're not sharing any suspect information at this time. But once that changes, of course, we'll let you know. Anyone with potential information about the incident, if you're hearing anything that could help police solve the case, they do ask you can reach out to their anonymous tip line at 574-LMPD or use the online crime portal. So we'll share those breaking updates and headlines with you as we receive them. Now to some other big stories and headlines, going to a much broader context for national stories, leaders in Washington making decisions playing out on the world stage. The Israeli Ministry of Health saying in a recent statement, 271 people, so more than 270 people hospitalized throughout the country overnight. And of them, the health ministry saying 4 had serious injuries. At least 71 resulted from the Iranian government bombing a surgical building at a medical center in the city of Beersheba. And that's according to the ministry statement. And meanwhile, U.S. troops are on high alert in the region. President Trump still weighing that potential U.S. involvement. We're going to play this report from NBC News' Keir Simmons reporting in Iraq.
We're around 2 hours from the Iranian border here in northern Iraq. In that direction is the American base, perhaps the one closest to Iran. And there are around 3,000 international military at that base. Now, so far, that has not been substantially targeted, although there are reports of drones downed in this region. Over in Israel, a very, very difficult night. They now say around 271 people injured after that hospital was targeted in southern Israel. In Iran, Israel continuing to target Iran's nuclear program, striking multiple sites. President Trump now having to decide whether to target the Fordo nuclear site. It is the one buried deep in the ground that perhaps can only be reached by American bunker buster bombs, those 30,000-pound bombs. One of the issues with President Trump, it's not even clear whether those bombs would destroy that site on the other side of the Iranian border from here. Meanwhile, the Israelis signaling again that they are interested in regime change. The Israeli defense minister saying that Ayatollah Khamenei, the leader of Iran, cannot continue.
And that was NBC's Keir Simmons reporting from northern Iraq. Now to another decision on President Trump's plate. He's extended the deadline for TikTok's parent company ByteDance to sell the short-form video app to an American owner by another 90 days. So another 90 days to try and remedy that particular situation. So earlier today, the president signed that executive order granting it's a third extension for this Chinese company to sell the platform so it can continue to operate in the U.S. And while aboard Air Force One Wednesday morning, Trump said he believed Chinese President Xi Jinping would be amenable toward a deal to sell the wildly popular app. Trump said he believed that Xi would sign off on a deal if a buyer does come forward. There's a law banning TikTok. Initially, it passed under the Biden administration over national security concerns, but once in office,
age of 45.
But once in office, the Trump regime and President Trump signed an extension of the deadline to sell the app, giving ByteDance 75 days to find that buyer. So we'll see how that plays off. That extension ended April 5th. Trump gave the app another 90 days. That was set to expire actually today. And under the law, ByteDance has to sell TikTok to a U.S.-based buyer. ByteDance has previously said it would not sell TikTok. They've been quiet, though, on whether or not there's been a decision yet to make such a deal. And so that's just some of the headlines coming in here to our Wave Extra desk. Okay, look into a health update for anyone wanting to empower with knowledge. It's estimated this particular condition affects up to 100 million U.S. adults, but many have no idea that they could have fatty liver disease. This is a report from the American Liver Foundation. And so the medical experts involved say if no one treats it, if it's left untreated, it's a type of disease that can lead to cirrhosis, liver cancer, raising the risk of serious heart conditions. So today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither has a little more close look on the disease and what one woman who has it wants others to know so they can better empower themselves and have a better health outcome.
In 2001, at the age of 45, Pam Miller went in for gastric bypass surgery.
I was finally going to get rid of all the weight that I had because I weighed nearly 300 pounds then.
But she says that surgery was aborted. There was a major problem with her liver, and she had no idea.
I really had no symptoms. Even my blood work was normal.
Back then, Miller says she didn't know anything about non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. It's caused by a buildup of fat in the liver that interferes with the organ's functioning, and that's what she was diagnosed with. On top of that, her doctor told her it was stage 4.
He told me I had approximately 6 years to live, that there was no cure, and, basically, good luck.
Miller decided to get a second opinion at the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center and learned about how lifestyle changes can help. For her, that meant weight loss.
It's so important to really increase awareness for this condition and for patients to ask their doctors whether or not they need to be screened for it.
Dr. Vivek Mendarata says sometimes blood work can detect a problem, but there's also a screening called FibroScan that quickly examines the liver.
It's essentially just an ultrasound that takes about 10 or 15 minutes. There's no poking, no needles.
It's now been 24 years since her diagnosis, and Miller is still maintaining healthy habits.
I think this is God's will that I'm supposed to get out and teach others that you need to listen to your body.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Certainly a more positive outcome as she's able to find those remedies to try and fix the situation. Now, the doctor who she went to, who Pam was able to go to, says there's many potential medications to treat this fatty liver disease on the horizon. One has been approved by the FDA. It's called Resdifra. He says it's been shown in studies to reduce inflammation and scar tissue development that might accumulate on the liver, and it can work hand in hand with lifestyle changes, as they had discussed, with weight reduction and blood sugar control. I want to show you right now a view from our SkyTrack camera looking at this calm pool in South Louisville. And when we're talking about potential heat wave, well, it is a heat wave heading our way. Chief Meteorologist Kevin Harden will be around later tonight on Wave News at 11 to break down just how long that's going to stick around with us, where it's coming from, how wide it's going to cover, the state of Kentucky and our neighboring states. But for now, looking at a quiet, calm pool, it'll be the kind of place a lot of folks will be looking forward to going to cool off when we're talking perhaps the first heat wave of the summer. Okay, we'll be back with the last little part of Wave Extra after this quick commercial break. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back, everyone. 8:28, just about to round out this half hour of Wave Extra. Have some interesting little tidbits. If you haven't come across these particular headlines in your smart devices or your feed throughout the day. So this one, just something timely, I thought, given if your kids, for example, they have more time to chill at home. Ideally, you might want them going to the library and joining camps or programs to, enrich their studies. But they're also wanting that downtime to play their new Nintendo Switch, for example. In particular, there's the consoles that have just come out, the Nintendo Switch 2s, apparently very popular. But get this in the story. Police in Colorado are now investigating someone who stole more than 2,800 of these Switch consoles, and you're going to see where it all happened from, at least based on Sheriff's Office video from out there. So it's the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office. They say earlier this month, a semi-truck driver called them to report someone broke into his trailer, and you see what was left behind. Several pallets of newly released Switch consoles gone. And each of the consoles, you might be acutely aware of it if you've been trying to find it for that special someone, just under $500. The value of the theft, police and deputies are putting it more than $1.2 million worth of goods taken. Yeah, the driver said he was on the way to a GameStop in Texas, but he was unaware of exactly how much cargo or really what was inside the pallets and the boxes. Investigators aren't sure what city these systems were stolen in, but this was the moment where he was able to figure out that someone did break ultimately into his car. So hopefully they're able to catch who was able to, pick through the lock and find and trace the serial numbers for those gaming devices for sure. And we're going to wrap up with a bit of Hollywood updates. Again, summertime. If you're looking to escape the heat, as I've mentioned, storm tracking team will be talking about that heat wave coming our way to Kentucky and heading further east. Hanging out in the movie theater is a pretty good option if the AC is kicking and you just want to spend, those good 2 hours enjoying a fun ride, action, comedy, movie for the family. Could be something interesting there. So we're going to talk about the top stories in the world of entertainment. So here is Douglas Hyde with today's Hollywood Minute.
A new trailer gives us our first look at Jeremy Allen White as Bruce Springsteen. He's playing the boss in the upcoming biopic Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, which hits theaters in October. The Bear star does his own singing in the film, which chronicles the making of Nebraska, one of Springsteen's most acclaimed albums.
$10 million worth of cocaine and opiates. You realize we've crossed a line. There's no coming back from this. Don't have a meltdown right here in the mud.
A prominent family turns to crime to keep their empire alive in Netflix's The Waterfront. The series premieres today and is based in part on the real-life experiences of show creator Kevin Williamson.
Kevin Williamson has been very open about the fact that back in the 1980s, his father was involved in trafficking. It was marijuana. You'd be amazed what you'll do when your back is against the wall and you're about to lose everything.
Oscar-winning director Catherine Bigelow gave us military movies like The Hurt Locker and Zero Dark 30. Now she's turning her focus to the White House for the Netflix film A House of Dynamite. Starring Idris Elba and Rebecca Ferguson, the political thriller centers on a missile attack against the U.S. and the race to find who's responsible. A House of Dynamite explodes onto screens this fall. In Hollywood, I'm Douglas Hyde.
And before we go, one last look at that setting sun. Look at those skies above Corden. Thanks to our SkyTrack camera, not many clouds to speak of in this particular frame, but enjoying a nice, quiet, for them at least, relatively rain-free sunset out in Corden. But again, reminding you just to be mindful of once this heat wave arrives and we head into the weekend, first official weekend of summer. And that's going to be equinox is tomorrow. The summer solstice is tomorrow. And Kevin letting us know that the sunset for that time was going to be at 9:09. So enjoying a pretty late setting sun. Hope everyone is able to, enjoy time relaxing back home from work, or if you took the holiday off, just a time reflecting on its significance and, enjoying it however you wish to, but safely and soundly. That's going to do it for us on this edition of Wave Extra. I'm Jose Sosaya. As always, reminder, you can connect with us on all of our socials, download the Wave app on your smartphone, and connect with us on Wave Extra and on Wave Now on your smart device. Appreciate you, everybody. Stay safe.